Jim Toth with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We haven't spoke since the end of Jets season. Before we talk about the offseason, like I said to Ken yesterday, I mean, I don't know, we're a week. I still just can't get over or believe the way it fell apart so fast after the first round. I mean, what did you make of the quick exit in round 2 to the Habs?
Well, it was alarming. It was shocking. I shouldn't say alarming. I'm not as alarmed as everybody else. I am shocked. Like, you lose any series like that, whether it's the first round or any other round, and I think it raises some question marks. But I hate to pile on him a little bit more, but I will, because I think it was a factor. I've done other shows, and I've said the same thing. The Mark Scheifele suspension, because game 1, they were just rusty. 9 days in a playoff series is a long time to go before you get your legs under you. Game 2, they didn't look good at all. And it was a 1-goal. Like, I can understand how Maurice and the rest of the Jets were trying to spin it as, well, look, it's a lucky bounce. But they didn't look good. They didn't play well. And if they even won that game, I would still have a raised eyebrow about had they won it. They did not. But I think 2 things. I think the Jets were shocked that Mark Scheifele was the guy who did that hit. And I think they were more shocked that he got 4 games. And I think it took some wind out of their sails. And it's not the only reason they played that poorly. It's not the only reason they couldn't get anything going. But I think it's one of the major ones. I really do. If anybody else lays that hit, I think it's like you and I. We're shocked that Mark Scheifele laid that hit. And then I was on board. I thought he was going to get 2 games. First-time offender, real nice guy, part of the return to play committee, all the things he does with the NHL. Not that stuff should factor in when judging a hit, but that stuff does. When I look at Tom Wilson and what he got away with and didn't get suspended and some of the other ones, it just was a bizarre time to send a message in the league and to Mark Scheifele. But I think, A, 2 things. I think it shocked his teammates that he did that. And I think, B, they were stunned that it was 4 games. They thought that they could get away with 2 and he'd be back and they might have to lose another game or whatever without him. So, because they just played uninspired, they played dead, they couldn't get their feet moving. And that's something that, you can talk systems, and I give full credit to Montreal. Look, they're rolling and they play well. And if you don't get a lead on them, it is tough to get anything towards the net, and then you have Carey Price. But it just seemed like that extra gear that you often find in the swing of was there a swing of momentum in game 3 and 4 at all?
No. Yeah, it was the opening face-off.
Yeah, I mean, so and what time do you see a playoff game where there isn't at least some momentum for each team? And I wonder about that. I wonder that, and then when Mark came out and was even more stoic about, the fact that he got railroaded and all this, I just think that maybe there's a belief there that they got something taken away. And I'm not quantifying it that that's why they lost the series or swept it, but I think it definitely took some wind out of some of their sails. But I also think, Huss, this team was exposed. I mean, we know the defense and all that. And as much as I like the Andrew Kopps and the Mason Appletons and everything else, and for as much as I hear that, Wheeler's a third liner and some of those guys need to move into the top 6, where was it? Where was the secondary scoring? A harp on the Stars all you want. I'm fully on board with that because in the playoffs, your best players have to be your best players. But where was the secondary scoring? Other than Adam Lowry, there was little production. And I don't
Stanley. Big Stan.
Stanley, the high heater twice. But I mean, so I've been on this for a while. They need a defenseman, Dougie Hamilton, whoever. You can throw the names out there. They need a defenseman. They can't wait for these young guys, even if Heinola, Sandberg are ready. They need a big veteran defenseman. And the problem is you normally draft those guys. The Petrangelos of the world go to free agency maybe once every couple of years. You have to draft them. And secondly, I've been on this for 2 years, and Westy and Rewicks and everybody else who listening will know this. They need a Corey Perry. They need a Pavelski in that bottom 6. They really do. And I like Stastny, but if you're not going to play him in the bottom 6, you need somebody else that's going to produce. And everybody balked at Corey Perry. And I give Troy Westwood a lot of credit. He said, he goes, at $750, you wouldn't bring Corey Perry to Winnipeg? I know he'd be vilified and all that. There's a reason why come playoff time, and people harp on Maurice for it, but most coaches go with some veteran experience. And it's because you need guys like that. And I'll even bring up the Trevor Lewis, who had a great year. I mean, I thought he played okay against Montreal, but he's not going to score you a ton of points. I think they need a veteran scorer to play in that bottom 6, and I think they need a defenseman. and you need some more, other pieces added into that. But to why they were swept by Montreal, I don't think even if Mark Scheifele was in the lineup or Billy Heinola, they were going to beat that team. They might have got a game, but I think it's a real question mark. Like, I'm perplexed, not to the point of you got to burn this thing to the ground, but I am perplexed on why there was just no gear found for 4 games.
Yeah, no, I totally agreed, JT. Jim Toth with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Great to have Jim back on. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And shout out to everyone listening on podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review and rating, and maybe a couple nice words on a review. That would be a big, big help. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you this. I asked Ken this yesterday. We're sitting here. It's the 18th of June. We've got a month or so till the expansion draft. Yes, exactly. With that beautiful art. So, for the expansion draft, we know that Scheifele, Wheeler, Ehlers, Connor, Dubois, and Lowry all for sure protected. That's 6 of 7, meaning Andrew Kopp, RFA, Mason Appleton, signed, making less than $1 million, still under team control. And I guess we'll throw in Jansen Harkins in that group. But to me, you're basically looking at Kopp or Appleton. And then on the blue line, let's assume that Morrissey and Pionk are automatic protects. You have to decide between Logan Stanley or Dylan DeMello. First of all, who are you protecting? Is Kopp the guy for sure, automatic, and Mason Appleton is exposed? And between Dylan DeMello and Logan Stanley, right now, if you're Cheveldayoff and Francis is not interested in doing a deal, which one do you protect?
If Kopp signs, I protect him. The problem with Andrew Kopp is he's been to arbitration, and he's probably going to want some money, and he had a career year, and I get that. But I just look. I like everything about both players. But if I'm looking to win in the next 2 to 3 years, it's Andrew Kopp. I think Andrew Kopp's going to do more than Mason Appleton. Mason Appleton's going to continue to develop. He's going to continue to get even better than he already is. But if you're looking to win next year and the year after, which I've always been on this 2 to 3 year window, I think you go with Kopp. On the blue line, I'm with you. I would have said Dylan DeMello for 3/4 of the season, and now I'm Logan Stanley. The ELC helps with that and the contract. And I just think as much as the Jets need Dylan DeMello and as much as he is a good defenseman at $3 million, you can find those guys. And so I take the ELC and the potential of Logan Stanley. And the other aspect is I like everything I've seen from Logan Stanley for a rookie season. There's some improvement there for sure, but so far, but I don't know what he is yet completely. But what I've seen is positive. I know what Dylan DeMello is, and I know what you're going to get from him.
And
it's really good stuff.
Yeah, and it's important. There's no doubt. I mean, he doesn't drive any offense, but man, I mean, we saw how important he was when he wasn't playing in that series.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing, and as much as like from a Jets perspective, I mean, I don't think they can afford to lose either of those guys, and it could very well be Kevin Cheveldayoff goes in and does some sort of a deal where there's some asset going forward, and they take another guy like they did the first time. But if that doesn't happen, and listen, there's some great points on, the importance of Dylan DeMello and why he would be a guy that Seattle's picked. I have to admit, though, I think that if Mason Appleton is unprotected and they can get him to come in and play in that middle 6 with some great potential going forward, under team control on that deal, I'm not sure it's an automatic that DeMello gets picked. I mean, I think maybe it might even lean more on the Appleton side. And I guess a big part of that is seeing what other defensemen are available and exposed by other NHL teams. That's a big part of it, as we're just focusing on one team. But I don't think it's an automatic that DeMello would get picked. I do think that if Logan Stanley was available, I think he gets picked. I think just the potential of such a unique player at his age, coming off that rookie season, would be too much to pass up for Ron Francis. again, I'm thinking of it in a 2 to 3 year window. Like, we have a 2 to 3 year window to win. Who's going to help us the most? Automatically right now. Like, did Logan Stanley play as good as Dylan DeMello? I don't know. Defensively, maybe not. But, I mean, he's going to put up more points already than Dylan DeMello is in a season. So it depends how you want to build your team and go forward. But for everybody who's sitting here, like, it's so easy to go Logan Stanley, ELC, Dylan DeMello's older. If he gets picked, we can find another guy.
But in my opinion, if you want to think what the Jets are going to do, you have to think in that 2 to 3 year window with that core and those contracts of how they're going to win. And I honestly think Logan Stanley does that for you. They've invested a ton in him. They've waited and allowed him to develop. I'm not sure they want to just go, okay, now that he's arrived and looked pretty good for a rookie and is going to get better as his career goes on, do we want to give up on that yet? And I think those are some of the discussions they sit around the table. Then they go, well, okay, if we are okay with giving that up, what do we get from DeMello for the next 2 years? And what's his production like and what's this? When you look at it from all angles, there are some benefits more to DeMello, but not enough for me to protect him over Logan Stanley.
Well, and Remus has put up a poll, and a lot of votes are coming in if you're with us live on YouTube. And Logan Stanley, if it comes down to it, it's just very simple. Who would you protect, Stanley or DeMello? Big Stan is at 71% right now, and Dylan DeMello 72%, and then Dylan DeMello's at 28%. I don't think I'm really surprised at that.
Aside from Vegas, those are the kind of players you get in expansion drafts. Good, solid defensemen with good contracts like Dylan DeMello in the previous ones other than Vegas. $3 million, blah, blah. There might be better defensemen available, but might be at $6 million. So they go, then they weigh the other ones. They go, well, this defenseman only has a $1 million contract, but he's not as good as DeMello. Like, that's sort of how they pick and choose. But I'm with you. Like, I think I've said who I would think will be protected. And I think it's Appleton or DeMello who you're going to see picked unless there's a deal made